the steering and his brother now.
We're now officially into the closing stages of the Formula 1 season, but we have finally got the news that we were waiting for, with Tom and Sam discussing their future. And would they have announced it today, even though they said they would? They most certainly have, and they have come to the decision that they will leave McLaren at the end of the season. Tom and Sam are becoming very, very uncomfortable with the increasing amount of threats from McLaren and Vodafone over their new deal, and have decided enough is enough. They are going, which means that Zak Brown is furious, while Vodafone are happy to see the back of them. Vodafone don't care that Tom and Sam are going. In fact, they're glad that they're out of the way, but Zak Brown is furious as he finally got what he wanted at the start of the season, which was 2 World Championship drivers which he could build with. But unfortunately, they're both going. Now, here's something that's quite interesting here. Now, David Smith, who was part of Jaguar, who was basically forced to resign by Panasonic, has moved to McLaren, with some of the McLaren reps moving to Jaguar. Now, this all looks a little bit confusing here, and it's time to break it down a little bit. So, David Smith was the principal of Jaguar, who initially actually told Nico Hülkenberg to send the tweet which he had made up for him at the Jaguars employees party. Now, initially, there was no form of punishment given to David Smith. In fact, it was given to Nico Hülkenberg and his engineer. Verstappen was also given punishment for acting up against Jaguar and basically defending Nico Hülkenberg. Eventually, the whole scenario unraveled itself, and David Smith was the man that was under pressure, but nothing seemed to be happening. That was until Panasonic got involved and said that David Smith had to resign because otherwise they were not signing a new title sponsorship deal, in which David Smith decided to resign. Zak Brown and David Smith are very, very close friends, and with David Smith backing the Vodafone deal all the way, it didn't really seem like any other option apart from David Smith is now moving to McLaren. But many of the McLaren representatives who backed both Tom and Sam and also received many, many threats are moving to McLaren, which begs the question, moving to Jaguar, which begs the question, would either Tom or Sam move to Jaguar, knowing that A, there's 2 seats there, and B, many of the reps that were backing them up in the first place and had built a strong friendship with are now moving to Jaguar, where there are seats available. And speaking of Jaguar and Panasonic, now that David Smith has now left Jaguar and is now joining McLaren, Panasonic have now signed a new title sponsorship deal with Jaguar. This is a little bit of extra for Jaguar. Of course, we've seen that Jaguar have been running Panasonic sponsors now for the previous 2 seasons. However, they have always been known as Jaguar Racing. They will now be known as Panasonic Jaguar from next season onwards. Looking then at the transfer centre into this Grand Prix weekend, and with both Tom and Sam out of the door, McLaren now need 2 new drivers. Of course, there's a lot of seats that are available all around the paddock, and no one's really announcing themselves in their new teams. I'm guessing they're just trying to keep it secret, or maybe they just haven't got they're not really sure where they're going yet. But they're now looking for 2 new drivers as well. Tom and Sam are gone, which means both Tom and Sam need a seat, and McLaren need 2 seats. Nico Rosberg has been linked heavily with one of the McLaren drives. Of course, Nico Rosberg will not be joining forces with Porsche next season. That has already been confirmed to be Pascal Wehrlein and Nico Hülkenberg, with Rosberg deciding to leave the team, and now he has been linked to join McLaren for next season. Now, a big shock, and one that wasn't necessarily too surprising for everybody, was that Charles Leclerc is not going to be staying at Ferrari next season. Of course, Charles Leclerc has enjoyed quite a difficult season with Ferrari overall in terms of performance, and also with the minor scandal that happened at the start of the season, whereby Ferrari tried to lie about their points total in order to finish in front of Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship, in which Charles Leclerc didn't actually know anything about that extra point scandal that they did, tried to back Ferrari as hard as he could, attacked Mercedes and also Ricciardo, only to find out that his team had lied and he never even knew about it. It was always a little bit toxic, and it almost looked like it cleared itself off. There was other little things in there, like fake websites removing Charles Leclerc from Ferrari and all of this, but it does seem that the toxicity is still there and Leclerc is not going to stay with Ferrari any longer. And finally, Ricciardo has turned down all claims that he's going to join McLaren next season. One of the big talking points obviously being that Ricciardo is not going to be at Mercedes next season, and Ricciardo has been linked with so many different drives, but all of them he continues to turn down. He was initially linked with Jaguar, but that sort of went away. Now he was told that he is going to join McLaren, and he's turned that down. Where is Ricciardo planning on going? It's a bit confusing, but yeah, Ricciardo definitely keeping his cards close to his chest. And now moving over into the race news then. So, McLaren, Mercedes and Jaguar again are showing impressive pace, and it looks like for the rest of this season it is going to be a three-way scrap between those teams in order to try and pick up the race victories, with Mercedes and McLaren seeming to have that couple of tenths of a second over Jaguar, which may prove dividend. Renault's car is working very, very well here at Brazil. Their race pace is looking very, very good, and on Friday they were very impressive in their qualifying simulation runs. Whether that's going to transfer in the race weekend, we're not too sure. One team that is concerned about their race pace is Ferrari. They're not really happy with their race trim. Both drivers were happy in some elements of their stints and then very unhappy in other elements of their stints. So they're not looking too confident as they try and piece everything together. But another team that's trying to piece things together is Red Bull. They were way off the pace in their qualifying sims on Friday. They may be able to improve that on the weekend, ready for, or on FP3 ready for the race itself. But yeah, not looking too impressive for them. And it's something that they're definitely going to have to keep their eyes on as they go into the race weekend. But speaking of that, let's get straight into it then. It's time for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Yo, what's going on guys? It is Fox19 here, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the F1 Journey for you guys today here on the channel. Today we're here for round number 14. It is the Brazilian Grand Prix. We've got 3 races left to go now of the season. The season truly has flown quite fast. As we go into qualifying then, Sam has currently set the benchmark of a 104.8 for us to try and beat as we cross the start-finish line. It's a 105.7 that we do across the line there, which is not a good banker lap actually. It was a long way off the pace compared to my teammate Sam as we go on to our second flying lap here now. We're just a little bit slower than our previous best lap, but we do a little bit better with the ERS management across the start-finish line, so we do improve by a couple of hundredths of a second, but remain 8 tenths of a second off the pace. And on my final flying lap, we're still not really finding that much time. In fact, we're only 3 tenths of a second up, which does mean no matter what, we're pretty much going to end up around about half a second slower than what Sam's lap time was. As we cross the start-finish line then, let's see how out the order we got. It's only P6, unfortunately, for us in today's Grand Prix, so not a great qualifying session for us, but of course, we can always look to improve that as we have a look at the grid then for this Grand Prix, and it is Sam on pole position ahead of Ricciardo then on the front row of the grid. Those two hopefully going to go for a good scrap today. Lewis Hamilton lines up third on the grid ahead of Max Verstappen in P4 for Jaguar, highest place Jaguar, with Hulkenberg in P5. We are in P6 then, so pretty much the slowest of the top 6 cars as there's now a 3-team fight, with the 2 Ferraris then lining up next with Noah James and Charles Leclerc lining up on the row ahead of Lando Norris and Mason Wood, the 2 Red Bulls then locked together. Next then is the 2 Renault cars of Daniel Ricciardo and Esteban Ocon in P11 and P12 respectively for them. And we've got Devon Butler in the Audi ahead of Pierre Gasly in the Ford in P14, doing another impressive performance for them, with George Russell in P15 and Bottas in P16 for Williams. Moving to P17 and 18, it's Pascal Wehrlein and Nico Rosberg in the Porsche cars. And then finally, in P19 and P20, it is Carlos Sainz and then Lucas Weber, rounding off the 20 drivers taking part in today's Grand Prix. So as we can see then, it's going to be a 2-stop race. So we're going to start on the super soft tyres, go to a set of soft tyres, and then another set of soft tyres to end off the Grand Prix itself. So let's see what we can do then here to start this Brazilian Grand Prix off as we now get onto the grid. We've got 5 red lights here for the start of the Brazilian Grand Prix, and it's lights out. We go then to start the Brazilian Grand Prix off in fine style. It's been a good start for us actually as we head down in towards turn 1. We're going to go towards the inside line here, try and nick a few places. We've already passed Hulkenberg in all of this now. As Hamilton there tags the back of Verstappen. Verstappen goes spinning rounds. We've been domino affected off of that. Have to take off to the escape road there. What happened to third place here? But Hamilton there making contact with Verstappen, and you can see in the S section there, Verstappen has now stopped. He's got back going again as Sam and Reese go side by side in towards the Red Imposter, I think it is. I could be wrong. I have no idea. But as we now go through in towards the middle sector here, Sam leads the Grand Prix. Reese in second place. We're in third. Hamilton still in fourth. And as we go on to lap 2 of the Grand Prix now here, Reese gets on the great exit out of the center S's, and now he's trying to go onto the back of Sam here in towards turn 4. Goes towards the outside line. Sam should cover this one off in towards turn 4, but Reese gets much better momentum around the outside and breezes past Sam to take the lead of the Brazilian Grand Prix. Mercedes lead the way then, as we've now got Reese in the lead with Sam in second place. We're in third. Lewis Hamilton, though, meanwhile, in P4 has caught right up to the back of us, so despite his contact with Max Verstappen at the start of the race, Hamilton is absolutely flying in these early stages of the Grand Prix now, and here he comes then, Hamilton with the DRS now, going to go towards the outside line of turn 1, but we have that inside line and we can cover off Lewis Hamilton into the first corner. We really need to do that now because, of course, we've got to make sure that we lose as little points as we can to Sam in the World Championship as we now go through it towards turn 4. We look to be just about further enough ahead to hold off Lewis Hamilton, but our ERS is not looking too fancy there. But onto that 4 of the Grand Prix now. Lewis Hamilton once again still onto the back of us here. Nico Hulkenberg, for that matter, has caught up ever so slightly, but we're not exactly getting dropped by Sam. We're 1.3 seconds back, but Hamilton is absolutely flying, and that's why we're going towards the first corner now. Lewis Hamilton has it. In fact, he doesn't even have a look in towards the first corner. He's going to set himself up then for the turn 4, so we need to be prepared for that now as we fly on through here. Hamilton gets a fantastic run off the exit of the final center S corner, and as we go through now in towards turn 4, there's nothing I can do to stop Lewis Hamilton from just flying past there into turn 4. Hamilton takes third place in this Grand Prix, and he's off into the distance now to go in charge after Sam, with Hulkenberg now right on my tail. Of course, that Jaguar is very, very slippery in a straight line. We're now trying to chase onto the back of Hamilton, but Lewis is literally a man on a mission right now. He is going for it now into the center S as he goes on Lewis Hamilton, trying to make a move here, and as he go through in towards the second part now, Sam will just have the better exit on the outside. He's also got DRS here, so he can use that to stay in front of Hamilton. But for me, though, Hulkenberg now is going to pull over to the inside line here. Caught me unawares there in towards turn 4, and Hulkenberg makes that move stick as well now. So we're going backwards in this Grand Prix as Hamilton doesn't get the move done on Sam on that occasion. Hulkenberg there has just completely mugged me off and has nicked P4 in the Grand Prix. So yeah, we were in P3. Now we're down into P4, which is not too good. But lap 8 of the Grand Prix, we're going to dive it down the inside of Nico Hulkenberg. A very nice overtake there. And the reason for that, Lewis Hamilton in front of us has got some form of car problem because he's much, much slower now. And it was confirmed about halfway through lap 7 that Lewis Hamilton was suffering from some car issues. So despite Lewis Hamilton's sensational start to this Brazilian Grand Prix, unfortunately, it's all gone to pot for him because, well, he's got no form of pace now. So noticing that, I decided to come into the pits at the start of lap 8, or start of lap 9, sorry, to go ahead and get myself underway and move onwards in this Grand Prix and just try and see if I could get anywhere in the race. So we're coming in now, getting off the super soft tyres and then putting on the soft tyres and seeing where we can go in the Grand Prix then. And let's have a look then. So as we come out of the pits now, and we're going to rejoin hopefully into some clean air. Of course, having a lot of traffic is really going to put pay to any form of strategy that we do. We've got one of the Porsche cars there in the Williams sandwich, and we're going to rejoin just behind Carlos Sainz in a little bit of a gap there. It's not a bad pit stop actually. We could have been rejoined behind this little scrap between Nico Rosberg and both of the Williams cars, but for us though, we're fine. Rosberg settles himself back in and they can continue to fight. For me, we've now caught up to the back of Carlos Sainz, and I don't really have much fuel to play around with, so I'm going to have to be careful with that, and now I'm going to have to use my ERS to manage that. But we're going to swoop around the outside of Carlos Sainz on the start-finish straight and just cover him off ever so slightly, make the move in towards turn 1, comfortable overtake, job done. But for the rest of the drivers, still not stopping yet. So I was a little bit concerned at this stage on how long they were going on their tyres, meaning they might just end up going on super soft tyres in the middle stint. And if they do, that's really going to screw me over. But nevertheless, we're trying to make our way through the field. We've now got Pascal Wehrlein to negotiate. So let's try and see if we can get onto the back of him quickly and make the overtake stick. We're going to put the car into overtake mode and open up that DRS as we go towards turn 4. We're going to have to go towards the outside line, but we've got such great overspeed that I can just take the corner my own way, and it really compromises Pascal's line, and that's us now up into 12th place in the Grand Prix. And now we're catching up to the soft tyre runners. These guys doing the one stop in this race, so we need to get past them as quick as we possibly can, because of course they're going to hold us up for quite some time, and we really don't want that. I don't really want that either. So we've got Pierre Gasly in the Ford to start things off with, and up front we've got my teammate Sam, who is coming into the pits actually. You can see him on the mini-map there, so he's coming in now for his first stop at the start of lap 12, so that's 4 laps earlier, 4 laps later than when I came in for my first stop, so that's quite a bit of a worry for me. We go down the inside of Pierre Gasly, they're set the fastest middle sector. I could have waited to the start-finish straight, but I got impatient. Also, Hulkenberg has stopped as well, and speaking of Hulkenberg stopping, he's actually rejoined behind Pascal Wehrlein, which means that we've actually undercut Nico Hulkenberg. Of course, we passed Pascal Wehrlein, so Hulkenberg has to get past Wehrlein, has to get past Carlos Sainz, and then he can get onto the back of me. In fact, he's got past George Russell as well now. Then he can get onto the back of me. So, yeah, a little bit of problems there for Hulkenberg. It's not worked out, as our undercut has worked against him, but we're now flying our way past Esteban Ocon, and Sam now is up next. Crucially, though, he's on super soft tyres, so he has gone a different way to where I'm going. I went for this the more tyre conservative route to get undercut, but for these guys, it's not really a problem for them. But speaking of Sam, though, he's onto the back of Devon Butler, and he's going to make mincemeat of him on the start-finish right here with those super soft tyres. He breezes past the Audi car, and he's up into, I believe this is going to be 3rd place for him. I believe, yeah, he's got the Renault of Ricciardo to overtake, and then he's onto the back of Reese. Speaking of Ricciardo, though, it didn't take him that long. It took him 1 lap, and now he's onto the back of him. Reese there, going in towards turn 1. It's got a sizable gap now between himself and Sam, so Sam's really got to start to close that gap down. You can see on the mini-map there how far away Reese is. But speaking of me and my soft tyres, yeah, it really wasn't a good idea to do this strategy, because now Hulkenberg is already onto the back of us here as he has the DRS now, and going in towards turn 4, he had so much better overspeed than me. I tried to do the switchback on Hulkenberg, it didn't work, and Hulkenberg retakes 3rd place in this Grand Prix. Tyre wear's not too bad actually, but yeah, I didn't pick the right strategy call. But onto lap 21 of the Grand Prix now, we've got a virtual safety car that's come out from absolutely nowhere in this Grand Prix, so that's going to halt the field slightly. And seeing that that's come out, I'm going to take that opportunity and make my pit stop for my second set of soft tyres, and hopefully try and re-jump Nico Hulkenberg in the pit, because if Hulkenberg clearly, no matter what, he's got the pace against me, because even when we were both on super soft tyres, Hulkenberg was quicker. There was no doubt about that. So if I can get the undercut on him again, then we should be okay. But crucial on the minimap, they're just coming in towards the middle sector now. You'll be able to see Reese and Sam where the number 2 is. Sam is closing up to Reese quite quickly, so I'm thinking that Reese is either struggling for performance or Sam is much, much faster in this stage of the race. And they're very, very close on track. So expect them maybe to have a scrap later on in the Grand Prix. But for us, though, we do rejoin just in front of Max Verstappen, which is very, very crucial for us, and just behind Charles Leclerc. The virtual safety car is ending. We've still got 1.3 seconds on our delta to make up. But luckily for us, we could just go flat out as soon as the virtual safety car comes in there, and we can get on with it. Speaking of Max Verstappen, who of course we said was just behind us, he's now unfortunately not behind us, because now we've got the Renault of Daniel Ricciardo, I believe this is, that is absolutely breezing past him until Max Verstappen says, no, I want to get back past you again, and gets back past him again on the start-finish straight, and quite simple overtake for him. Now on to lap 23 to start lap 24. I'll tell you what, the VSC didn't really make that much of an impact. However, it made a big enough impact for me that we are now back in front of Nico Hulkenberg. The gap was about 3.8 seconds before the VSC. Here on lap 28, the gap is obviously like 0.2 of a second. So I don't remember what the full gap was, but now this time it's a straight fight to the end of the Grand Prix between myself and Hulkenberg now. As we go in towards turn 4 here, we defend nicely against Nico Hulkenberg, and we're going to have to do that a lot now in this Grand Prix. And of course, this time around, there's no, I'm going to give the position back. But speaking of what I was talking about earlier, Sam catching up to the back of Reese. Here he is now, and he's going to go for it here against Reese. He goes towards the outside, fakes that, goes to the inside line. Reese covered the middle of the circuit, but Sam was smart and wise enough to just completely go down the inside and see the space that was there. And there's been a lead change at the top then. Sam takes the lead away from Reese now, and he may be able to breeze off into the distance here. For me, though, I'm focusing on Nico Hulkenberg, doing my best now to stay away, or stay in front, sorry, should I say, of Hulkenberg. I have ERS, quite well managed actually. The fuel, not so much. As we go on to the start-finish straight now, Hulkenberg here has got a fantastic run now in towards the first corner here. Hulkenberg gets a great drive and he's just clean straight past us now. But we go very deep in towards turn 1 and make the move stick. But for me, I got a little bit fortunate because Hulkenberg actually locked up, so I didn't have to worry about him into the second part of the straight. But on to lap 28 to start lap 28 now this Grand Prix. Again, fuel becoming a little bit of a problem here, but Hulkenberg now with the DRS is getting much closer now in this Grand Prix. Goes for a move up the inside in towards turn 4. We give him a very tight line there, bit of contact made, and we go a little bit wide there, but we hold off against Nico Hulkenberg, and I believe that is the last time that we're going to have to hold him off, because on to lap 36 of the Grand Prix now. Sam takes the race victory here, and Hulkenberg also had some car trouble at the end, so you can see the gap up to 8 seconds now. So we were able to pull away, and it was a very hard fought Grand Prix, but we're going to come across the line to finish in 3rd place in the Brazilian Grand Prix. And after that, you know, I'll take that. It was a decent Grand Prix for us. We probably could have done a little bit better, but we could have definitely done a lot worse. But having a look then at the full race results, Sam wins the Brazilian Grand Prix then ahead of Reese. Of course, those two were in a league of their own today. Reese, very unfortunate not to beat Sam today after pretty much leading for the vast majority of the Grand Prix. We finished off in P3 today. We definitely didn't have the pace over the top 2 cars. We didn't really make our strategy work either. Hulkenberg finishes in P4 for Jaguar. Unlucky for him today, could have got a podium. But luckily, we managed to fight hard against him. Daniel Ricciardo, P5 for Renault. A stellar job for Ricciardo after starting, I believe it was P11 it was, to come up into P5. A great result for him. Noah James, in P6. A decent result for Ferrari. Very quiet day, though, for him. Max Verstappen, P7. That's a great recovery drive, considering he was spun around at the start of the Grand Prix. Lando Norris in P8, ahead of Devon Butler in P9. And then it is Esteban Ocon in P10 for Renault. Sam set the fast lap of 106.8 to take that extra bonus point. And then the next half of the table, Charles Leclerc finishes down in P11 again. Very quiet day for Ferrari, but not the good one either. Leclerc not scoring any points. Same with Mason Wood. No points scored for Red Bull today in P12. Gasly finishes in P13 for Ford, again doing an impressive job ahead of George Russell, and it's Pascal Wehrlein. And then we've got Carlos Sainz and Lucas Weber. And then it's Nico Rosberg with Valtteri Bottas in P19. Lewis Hamilton with car trouble from lap 7 when the car troubles hit him. It never actually recovered, so he finished in P20. Normally, when someone has an issue with their car, normally it recovers after like 5 laps. Nope, it just stayed broken for the whole time. So that's not good for Lewis Hamilton. He lines up in P20, but no DNFs for a change. Moving then on into the Drivers' Championship then. Now the gap between myself and Sam has now dropped down to 25 points with 2 races to go. We still have the advantage over Sam, but if we have a bad race at the Japanese Grand Prix, it's really going to put our title hopes in jeopardy heading into the Belgian Grand Prix. That gap has been slowly but surely coming down recently, and Sam is doing a good job of chipping away at it. Reese now is 3rd in the championship on 189 points, and he is now 57 points behind me in the championship, which does mean that Reese is now mathematically out of the title hunt. It does mean that it's either going to be myself or Sam that will take the World Drivers' Championship this time around. Lewis Hamilton is 4th in the championship on 139 points, with Noah James on 117 points. Those two are still quite close to each other in the championship, so that'll be interesting to note. Mason Wood is 6th in the championship, ahead of Charles Leclerc on 76 points, with Max Verstappen now on 70 points for Jaguar. He's someone else to look out for. He's on 70 points and Mason Wood is on 82 points. That gap could easily be overturned, and Verstappen could claim 6th in the championship at this rate. Lando Norris is P9 in the championship on 57 points, and Daniel Ricciardo moves back up into the top 10 of the championship for Renault with 53 points, and he has usurped George Russell. The next race that we're going to be going to is the Japanese Grand Prix. And then the Constructors' Championship, it is a 467 points now for McLaren, and Mercedes are on 328 points. Ferrari remain 3rd in the Constructors' Championship at 192 points, with Red Bull on 139 points. And here's the interesting piece here. Audi have dropped down 2 places, I believe, unless Jaguar are already in front of them. My maths is probably wrong, and I believe I am wrong. But still, Jaguar, though, they're on 102 points, with Red Bull not really performing that well. And you have to say now, Jaguar have got a quicker car than Red Bull. That 37-point gap in the span of 2 races is not an impossible feat to chase. So, yeah, look out for Jaguar. Could they clinch P4 in the Constructors' Championship? Who knows? Renault are on 86 points, and they've jumped in front of Audi now, who are down on 81 points. So Audi, who've been controlling 5th in the championship, now see themselves down in 7th in the championship. Ford are on 16 points, ahead of Porsche on 10 and Williams on 6. Now, with that being said and done, let's go and look at the post-race notebook and see what the teams and drivers had to say after this race weekend. Sam is happy to have beaten Ricciardo in a straight fight at the Brazilian Grand Prix. Sam was on pole position but lost the lead on lap 2 to Ricciardo, in which Ricciardo led for the majority of the Grand Prix, but Sam eventually found his rhythm at the end of the second stint, and in the final stint, he managed to make the overtake on Ricciardo's stick and took the car home to finish in P1. But for Ricciardo, though, he was very, very happy with P2. He felt that the McLaren car was actually much, much quicker today and was surprised by his own pace and was satisfied to claim P2. Tom believes that the B-spec McLaren car could cost him the Drivers' Championship. Now, with the previous car spec the McLaren had, it really did suit Tom's driving style quite considerably. It wasn't the quickest in a straight line, but it still had decent straight line speed, but through the corners, it was absolutely rapid. Now this new McLaren car, which has got a very, very strong straight line speed, is very much now lacking again in the corners with lots of weight being added on. Tom doesn't like the feel of the car, and he has literally said, it's probably I'm not gonna win the championship if I have to keep running with this car. And Renault are on the up as they leapfrog Audi in their constructors battle. It looks like Jaguar have pretty much ran away now in the constructors fight, which means that Renault and Audi are gonna have to scrap it out together. That gap is 5 points. There are still 2 races to go, so could Renault potentially overtake them? We'll have to wait and see to the next episode, which hopefully you guys have enjoyed this one anyway. If you have, feel free to drop it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here as well. Next time around, we're going over to Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix. Take care all. Peace.